Have you ever been told, you're too sensitive, you're too intense, you care too much, you think too deeply, and for a while, you believed them. You started wondering, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I do feel too much. Maybe if I could just tone myself down a little, people would finally stay. So you started shrinking, softening your words, holding back your tears, dimming your light, just to be digestible. But the truth is, you were never too much. They were just too limited in what they could hold. Before we go further, this is your space. This is Soulscape, where your depth is not too much. It's sacred. So if you're someone who's ever felt too emotional, too intense, too complicated, subscribe to this channel, not because you have to, but because you finally deserve to be in a space where your truth is welcome, your tears are safe, and your light isn't too bright. Take a breath. We're going deep, and you don't have to hide this time. It starts early, when you cry too easily, when you ask too many questions, when you feel things more deeply than those around you. They don't know what to do with your sensitivity, so they call it dramatic. They call it overreacting. They call it being too much. But what they never understood was that your sensitivity was never a flaw. It was your superpower, the way your heart connects, the way your soul sees what others overlook. The world slowly teaches you, tone it down. Stop taking things so personally. Don't be so intense. You're exhausting. So you try. You try to be chill, to not care so much, to laugh when something actually hurts, to act like you're okay when you're crumbling inside. But every time you silence your truth, you chip away at your self-worth. Until one day you look in the mirror and wonder, is there something wrong with me? No, love, there isn't. Let's be honest. Some people only know how to love at the surface. They've never sat with their own pain, so they don't know how to hold yours. They prefer neat, simple, predictable. They're not bad people, just unprepared for someone like you. Because you don't just feel. You feel deeply. You don't just connect. You merge. You love like oceans, and they've only ever known puddles. Here's the truth no one tells you. The more you show up as your full, real, raw self, the more some people will pull away. Not because you're wrong, but because your depth confronts their shallowness. Your presence disrupts their pretending. Your truth challenges their comfort zone. Don't take their withdrawal as rejection. Take it as redirection. Every time someone backs away from your authenticity, you're being guided closer to those who can meet you there. So you start adjusting. You water down your words. You make yourself smaller in rooms that can't hold your fullness. You become easy to love by hiding the parts that once got labeled too much. But here's the thing. Shrinking yourself never leads to real connection. It only creates resentment. Because deep down, you know you're wearing a mask. And nothing hurts more than being loved for a version of you that isn't fully you. You start prioritizing comfort, but not your own. You laugh at jokes that sting. You pretend things don't bother you. You become low maintenance just to avoid being too much. And in the process, you abandon your needs. You dismiss your feelings. You silence your truth, all to make others more comfortable. But what about your comfort? What about your truth? You deserve to take up space. You've never been too much for the right people. The right people won't flinch at your tears. They won't call your honesty intense. They won't shrink from your shadow or run from your silence. They will lean in. They will stay. They will see your depth as beauty, not burden. But first, you have to stop hiding it. The world can't meet a version of you that you refuse to show. Not everyone will understand your soul. Some people will misinterpret your softness as weakness, your boundaries as attitude, your depth as drama. Let them. Their inability to see your worth has nothing to do with your value. You're not here to be palatable. You're here to be real. You don't need mass approval. You need authentic alignment. One soul that truly sees you is worth more than 100 who only look. Every time you speak your truth, even with a shaking voice, you set yourself free. Every time you choose honesty over performance, depth over popularity, self-respect over approval, you return to yourself. And in that returning, you remember, you were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who were never taught how to hold that kind of beauty. You stopped speaking up because they didn't listen. You stopped crying because they called you dramatic. You stopped sharing because they dismissed your depth. But the silence you carry now isn't peace, it's protection. A wall built around a heart that's been misunderstood too many times. And maybe it kept you safe, but now it's keeping you small. You don't need to apologize for being deep, for thinking differently, for feeling fully, for asking real questions in a world addicted to pretending. You're not a burden, you're a mirror, and some people just aren't ready to see themselves reflected back that clearly. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. You've spent years waiting for someone else to validate you, to say, yes, you're okay. Yes, you're lovable. Yes, you're enough. But what if you were the one you've been waiting for? What if your own voice could be the one that says, I see you, I love you, you're enough, exactly as you are? Because once you believe it, the rest of the world begins to catch up. The part of you they called too emotional, that's your empathy. The part they said was too intense, that's your passion. The part they called too complicated, that's your depth. You were never too much. You were simply too real for a world that hasn't learned how to sit with truth. But your truth is not a threat. It's a gift. And the moment you stop hiding it is the moment you begin to shine. Freedom doesn't come when everyone finally gets you. It comes when you finally get yourself and realize that's more than enough. It's not about being understood by everyone. It's about being fully known by yourself. Because once you own who you are, you stop needing the world's permission to just be. And that's when everything changes. Something beautiful happens when you stop performing. When you no longer shape yourself to fit someone else's expectations. When you stop editing your emotions to make others comfortable. You start to feel light, aligned, free, and sure. Some people may leave, but the ones who stay, they'll be the ones who see you, not your performance. And that kind of connection, it's rare, it's real, it's worth the risk. Some people walk away when you stop shrinking for them. And that's okay. Their exit isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's a clearing, a quiet opening for people who can meet you as you are, not as you pretend to be. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with grace. Not everyone is meant to walk the whole path with you. Some were only there to teach you how to stand in your truth. Your body knows when you're faking. That tight chest before you speak. That ache in your jaw from smiling too long. That tension in your shoulders from holding it all in. These aren't random. They're messages. Signals that something inside you wants to be seen, heard, felt. The more you ignore it, the louder it becomes. But the moment you listen, peace returns. Your body doesn't want perfection. It wants presence. The most radiant souls are rarely the loudest. They're the ones who've known silence, who've sat with pain, who've been told they were too much, and still chose to stay soft. There's a quiet power in those who've refused to harden just to survive. If that's you, if you're still choosing love even after being misunderstood, I see you, and I promise, you're not alone. Your truth has a ripple effect. When you speak honestly, you give others permission to do the same. When you stop hiding, you light the path for those still lost in pretending. When you love yourself, you teach others how to love themselves better. You don't have to preach, just be real, just be kind, just be you. And in doing so, you become a lighthouse for those still trying to find their way home. You've spent so long trying to be enough for others that you forgot how to be enough for yourself. You searched for approval, confirmation, someone to say, yes, you make sense. Yes, you belong. But what if you stopped searching? What if all this time, you were the one voice missing from the room? Because when you believe in you, the world adjusts, not the other way around. You don't exist to be easy to love. You exist to be real, to feel deeply, to ask questions, to challenge, to inspire, to awaken. And real love, the kind that nourishes your soul, it doesn't ask you to shrink. It meets you where you are, all of you, not just the parts that are polished and pleasant. You're not here to perform. You're here to be witnessed, fully, freely, finally. All the pieces you buried to be accepted, they're still there. Your laughter, your softness, your fire, your voice, your intuition, they've been waiting for you, patiently, quietly. And the moment you return to them, you'll realize you were never incomplete. You were just edited. Now it's time to restore the full version. The world doesn't need another perfect person. It needs you, raw, alive, feeling, curious. You don't inspire others by pretending to be flawless. You inspire them by being real, by showing your cracks, your depth, your beauty inside the mess. You've got nothing to prove, only truth to embody. So stop hiding, start becoming. The world will catch up. You may never be fully understood, and that's okay. Because being understood isn't the goal. Being true is. You don't need everyone to get you. You need to not abandon yourself just because they don't. And when you stop requiring permission to be who you are, you become unshakable. You become free. It takes courage to be real, to walk into a room and not shrink, to speak your truth even when your voice trembles, to stay soft in a world that tells you to harden. But that kind of courage, it transforms everything. Because once you become unapologetically yourself, the right people find you, the right peace finds you, and most importantly, you find you. You don't have to leap. Just take one honest step. Say how you really feel. Set a boundary. Take off the mask, even for a moment, and breathe. Let that breath remind you, you're alive, you're awake, you're allowed to take up space. This world needs your honesty far more than it needs your perfection. Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world told you to be someone else. And that version of you, unfiltered, unedited, unafraid, is still there. They've just been waiting for your permission to return. You've never lost your light. You've just forgotten where to look. It's not out there. It's in your softness, in your depth, in your emotions, in the parts they called too much. You are not too much. You are just more than they were ready for. But that doesn't mean you need to be less. So if you've ever been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too intense, let this be your reminder. You're not too much. You are simply not meant to be small. And you don't have to carry that shame anymore. You don't have to apologize for feeling. You don't have to dim your light to belong. This is your homecoming. Welcome back to yourself. Welcome back to your light. This is Soulscape, a space where your soul doesn't need to shrink to fit. If this message spoke to something inside you, subscribe to Stay Close for more healing, reflection, and realness every week. And in the comments, tell me, what part of you are you ready to stop hiding? I'll be reading. I'll be holding space, because your truth matters. Until next time, stay soft, stay deep, stay real.